excited to share with you one of my favorite passages from the New Testament of the Bible. It is from Hebrews chapter 11 and into the beginning of chapter 12. And I want to talk to you just a bit about faith and the joy set before us, and how our faith, our unwavering faith, and our persistence and remaining presence to the process will be rewarded, but in a way that far surpasses what perhaps we would have anticipated as reward for our faith. So first, let me read to you chapter 11 of Hebrews, one of my favorite passages in the Christian scriptures. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith Enoch was taken from this life, so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with faith. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land, and like a stranger in a foreign country, he lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was unable to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show how they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had the opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who embraced the promise was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so, in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from death. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when his end was near, spoke about the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt and gave instructions considering the burial of his bones. By faith, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be ill-treated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of Christ as greater value than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the application of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. By faith the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell. By faith the walls of Jericho fell, and after the army had marched round them for 7 days. By faith, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed foreign armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawn in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and ill-treated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, that only together with us would they be made perfect. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, for the joy that was set before him as he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. So I want to talk to you just briefly about this. Do not grow weary and lose heart. And what is the promise that we have? You know, many do grow weary because the reward seems long in coming, and then, you know, we are so close to the finish line, and we are shown that in a variety of ways. I have a funny story about that I'll go ahead and share it. So I was doing a little video conference call with some friends, and was sitting, I was actually house sitting, and so I was at someone else's house and had the video on, and later I found out that behind me in the video was a man running around in a checkered shirt, apparently trying to catch something, an animal perhaps that had strayed or something. And I was oblivious to it. I didn't see it the whole time. And as a matter of fact, when one person on the call told me that, I thought she must have imagined that. But lo and behold, there really was a man in a checkered shirt who was running back and forth. And to me, it was a clear indication and a clear sign that we are nearing the end, and the race is nearly over, and we will be rewarded. And so what is really, really amazing, and what this passage that I've read to you and shared with you from the book of Hebrews, which is one that I treasure very much, what it reminds me of is this, that we do these things by faith, and not by sight. We have walked on this journey, and it's been difficult because what was promised has not appeared. And yet, we do not know what God has planned. We cannot imagine what God has planned and the joy set before us. And so, our faith is indeed confidence in what we hope for, and it is assurance that what we don't yet see will be realized, and more, and more. For there is such a joy set before us, and God has something planned that is beyond our imagining, but beyond our wildest dreams. And it is something that we will share in together, and that we will together celebrate this race that we have run, and that as we fix our eyes on Jesus, if you don't resonate with Jesus, then on this journey that we have made to come home to each other and to God, and as we set our eyes on that, and we continue to remain faithful and to know that we are surrounded by so many who have walked in this way before, that in that, and as we remember all that was opened up by the way in which Jesus walked, this is what gives us the strength to persevere, and that we can throw off everything that hinders us now, because we are almost there, and the race has already been won, and God's promise awaits, and the fulfillment of that promise will come to us in unanticipated joy. The joy that was set out before Christ as Jesus was on the cross, it was beyond anything that any of those who were alive at that time could comprehend. So do not grow weary or lose heart, but continue to walk by faith and not by sight. Lots of love, everybody.